Good afternoon. I think it's afternoon.
Good
Yes, it just
afternoon.
is. It's just turned. Just turned. It's Graham Coath with another My Music. I'm going to be speaking to my friend here about all things electronic-y and BP and musical in a minute. We'll be talking about Circuit3, the up-and-coming album, and a life in music as well. First of all, though, let's watch 25 seconds of this.
I need to get going, mate. I'll see you later.
And now with your laptop suitably raised up to avoid neck pain, Peter Fitzpatrick, thanks for joining me.
It's good to see you, Graham. How are you?
Yeah, I'm
Those
fine.
stands look great. They'd be great for a gig.
They are great for if you can see in the bottom corner of our sort of layout screen, you can see someone actually DJing with one. Yeah.
Oh, very nice. Yes, that's what they're doing. I was kind of squinting at it, and I thought, oh, it's lots of cassette tape that's been thrown around. Oh no, it's a DJ deck with cables. Okay, now I see it. I really need to enlarge this window.
It is one of those. I love the fact you thought it was old-fashioned technology.
Yeah, giving away my age there.
Well, do you know what? Talking about old-fashioned technology, do you know what my son, well, one of my sons, because I've got so many of them, asked me yesterday morning? He came in, he made me so proud. He came in and he said, "Dad, is there such a thing as a Bluetooth Walkman?"
No,
now,
really.
Do you know whether there is?
That's a really good question, because I've got now an actual Walkman, as in a CD player with Bluetooth.
No, the cassette player.
Oh, the cassette one. No,
Yeah.
there couldn't be. There couldn't be.
There is.
Has somebody done it?
Yeah. How cool is that?
How long has this been around, and why has nobody told me?
I know, right?
I'm a sucker for a gadget.
He's absolutely saving up to buy one now. So yeah, basically it is a you put the cassette tape in it, but then it transmits whatever's coming out via Bluetooth.
Oh, you know that would be really good for if you've got old cassettes with stuff on them that you want to digitize.
Yeah,
that would be really cool, because you never have the right cable for that sort of thing. Well, that's cool. Yeah,
isn't it cool?
I might have to dig out my old cassettes now.
I knew, seeing as you were, a gadget man, that you'd probably enjoy that little.
Oh,
snippet.
Very much so. Yeah. That's Christmas sorted.
What I love,
and we're only in May.
I know. What I love is, as soon as he did it as well, he then started looking on eBay and other places are available for what cassette tapes he could buy to put in it as well.
Ooh.
What do you think his first choice was? What do you think the first cassette was that he wanted to put in that?
Is he still in secondary school, or is he in university?
He's just doing his A-levels now.
I'm gonna say it's probably a Beatles album.
No.
Then it's probably. I'm trying to figure out what kids that age are listening to at the moment. I'm gonna say something grunge, maybe.
No, I'm gonna tell you, Ziggy Stardust.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, you have passed parenting with flying colors, Graham. Well done.
What can I say?
Proud dad.
I was so proud. I was absolutely so proud. He's like, this is seminal. He actually said, well, this is seminal, this album. I've got to get one of these cassette players to listen to it on. Because he's already got the earbud headphones, etc., so you can walk around the house and do jobs. I've got to get one of these, and I've got to get Ziggy Stardust and Spiders from Mars to listen to it. I was like, yeah, I totally agree. I cannot fault that.
There's nothing wrong with this picture. Yeah. Has he started explaining bands to you yet that you're like, yeah, no, I have heard of them?
Oh yeah, I've had that, less from him, because he knows. He really gets it with me. But I've had it with my eldest son, who's just finishing university. Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing that a lot of us have. You have children?
Yes. Yeah, I've three adult children. Yeah, they've done all of this to me.
There you go. So you will have been through this, where you listen to your music, and there's a point where they're like, "Dad, shut that up. You know, that's awful." And then later on, they discover the music that you listen to, and then they come and try and tell you all about it. It's like, you really should hear this. Yeah.
We've had that. So growing up, Sunday evening, we would have a late dinner and Stuart McConey's Freak Zone on Six Music would be playing. And they complained for years. And now they're discovering all the weird stuff. But when Kraftwerk came to Dublin a handful of years ago, one of my sons, long story, I had 2 extra tickets. So I figured, Oscar, would you like to go? And look, I've got it +1. So he brought his girlfriend and he said to me later, yes, she kept saying, how do I know these songs? How do I know these tunes? And Oscar said, you've been in our house regularly. It's always bloody playing in our house. So it is kind of infectious. She couldn't name any of the tunes. She suddenly connected, oh, so that's this on the stage. Oh, right, okay. It's funny how it just seems to spread like a virus.
It does. And of course, part of it is, especially with electronic music as well, or those little electronic lines that sit over songs, is that they end up getting used in adverts, etc.
Yeah.
Now, one of my sons came up to me with that the other day. He went, Dad, it's in an advert at the moment. It's brilliant, but it's annoying me because I don't know what the song is. And I went, that's Enola Gay.
Oh boy.
And he's like, what? And he looked it up and he played it. He's like, yes. He's been looking for it for ages. It's just great, isn't it, when that happens?
It is, yeah, it is. And I'm also glad that that the O&D boys are getting some sort of paycheck for the advert.
It really
because it'll help their pension.
David says, my eldest like Radiohead, like me. She doesn't see it as depressing music, but also like Royal Blood. Yeah, exactly. That's the whole thing. You know, a lot of youngsters, and we did the same thing, I believe. And that's what I want to talk to you about, is your sort of journey into music. But I'm sure you, like me, did exactly the same thing. You had the music of the time, of the generation around you. You got into that because there was a social aspect of it, and you know, it was great to listen to. I mean, with me growing up, I suppose the stuff at the time that people were listening to was, you know, Nick Kershaw, Howard Jones, especially on the sort of more electronica side of things. You know, from a vocal point of view, Paul Young was always there. All of those sort of people. But then you listen to that music, and then you follow it back, and then suddenly someone plays you something else that just said, oh yeah, but they got that from this, etc. And before you know it, you're over there somewhere else.
You find the threads. I in the mid late 80s, that like this is the sort of thing that young people do. I would have been maybe 21, and I had my first synth, and I was playing in a serious band making serious music. And then I was approached by somebody, listen, do you want to do a paying gig on a Friday night? And it turned out I ended up in a gig with one of the former members of Thin Lizzy here in Dublin, and it was a rock and blues gig. I didn't really know anything about rock and blues. I knew who Thin Lizzy were. I knew some of the singles, so I had a crash course in learning some of that. And then we did an old blues tune, and the bass player was coaching me, this is the riff, and he plays the riff. And I said, oh, that's Give Me Some Money from Spinal Tap. And he says, no, Peter, it's an old blues riff. And the rest of the band, who were a little bit older than me, looked at me as if to say, oh, sweet summer child, you have so much to learn. But yeah, the music stuff, I would have come up from, it was just, you learn that the best band ever was the Beatles. That's what you're told. And you investigate the music, and you know what you find out? Actually, yeah. And I was fascinated by the story of the Beatles, and I became a huge fan, a bit of a collector. Loved the music. But then around late 70s, all this interesting stuff started appearing. I have a very clear memory in my early teens of hearing Georgia Moroder, Donna Summer, I Feel Love, and wondering what's that. And I remember it's all jumbled up now in a mixture of memories. But if I think of artists that suddenly leapt out of the television in the late 70s into early 80s, the Buggles, Landscape, and then my buddy in school, he had access to records because I didn't. I couldn't afford to buy records. And he had an uncle who worked in a record shop and supplied him with records. He introduced me to the Human League, Mark One, of course OMD, Fad Gadget, all the early Mute stuff. And I just was soaking this up on cassettes, and it was great. And that's what got me, and that's the attraction of it. Just that hooked me, which is why I've got somewhere. I've actually got the Mute logo. Which arm is it on? It's on one of my arms here, because that's that stupid thing when you do when you're 50. You figure, right, I want to get a tattoo. Which will it be? And the only thing I could think of was Mute, because I spent the last few decades listening to stuff on Mute Records. That's where all that came from. So it's all his fault.
Well, you mentioned Buggles. We've actually had Jeff Downs on this program.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. I mean, and yet, there you go. He told a similar story. Obviously, slightly different bands because slight age difference. But I mean, it's a story that goes over and over again with anyone that's really into their music.
Yeah, it's a process, and we all go through it. And I'm loving it now. I was asked in a recent interview, like, what were my views on things like the Weekend and things like this awful label Synthwave, which is a made-up thing. And I just thought, what's the like, what do you think of young people like getting into that and saying, isn't this cool? And my thing on it is that, yeah, that's great. And I've heard what the Weekend does. I think it's really, really good. But if it means that people start following back the threads and finding out where they all came from, that's even better. And they end up going back to, let's say, Landscape, because we mentioned Landscape. And I thought, imagine hearing Landscape for the first time and getting to do that again. Imagine getting to hear the first OMD album for the first time again.
Yeah,
I'm a little bit envious because it's so brilliant. Imagine hearing New Order for the first time and getting to do that again. That first sort of rush.
Yeah, I'd love to go back and listen to certain things for the first time again. It would be really, really. Yeah,
right now,
absolutely.
there's a kid somewhere doing that right now. How lucky are they?
They are. It's the best feeling in the world, isn't it? Yeah, when you discover that thing, and you just go, "Wow, this is mind blowing," and then you can follow that thing through. It's just fantastic. It was brilliant. Once I got off of Father Abraham and Smurfland, which I think was my first album.
Oh, I used to shout at the television. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Are you one of those people that are not proud in terms of music? Because it annoys me sometimes.
Not at all.
It really annoys me sometimes when and you see it on things like Twitter. Hi, Twitter. But you see Twitter. It when people do, when people do this sort of like, what was the first album you bought? And the first thing that they put up was like something incredibly cool. And you just think,
oh, liars!
Was it? Absolute
liar! Yeah.
Like
okay, my first. You go first. Because I want to see how cool yours was before I say mine.
Well, my first single was Pete's Dragon. There you go. I'm not. I was tiny. And as I say, my first proper album was Father Abraham and Smurfland, which included the amazing song Smurfing Beer. You don't get drunk and it isn't dear. What a lyric!
that sounds like a line from a Spray song.
I'll let him know that.
Yeah. Hello, John. Hi, Johnny.
Yeah, hi, Johnny. Oh dear. Yeah. Well,
so mine was.
I can hear his sister echoing it in the background.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And in the video, she's just delivering the line absolutely perfectly. So mine was in the bargain bin because I had 30p to spend, so I had to go through the bargain bin, and the only thing I could find was Bionic Santa by the DJ Chris Hill. And I thought, Bionic, And I asked the guy behind the counter who looked down his nose at me and said, "Oh, it's kind of a comedy record and it's using bits of other records." And I thought, it's 30p. It's all I'm going to be getting. So I took it. It was either that or something I'd never heard of that could have been worse. So I got it. And it was actually brilliant because Chris Hill was doing this thing where I don't know if he was paying to use the clips, but he was telling the story by doing cut up pieces from other people's records. And I think I might still have it somewhere, but I'm proud to say my first actual album on cassette was the Beatles' Abbey Road, because I had a little songbook and I had a cheap guitar and I was trying to learn the songs, and there were all these other songs in this big thick book that I had never heard because my parents, I think, had 2 compilations. So there was, and I just thought, oh no, I've got to get another album. I want to find out what these other songs are, because I'm trying to figure out what's this song Polythene Pam? How does that go?
Yeah.
And and You Never Give Me Your Money. I was trying to imagine what these songs sounded like. So I got.
It's
Abbey
interesting
Road,
you started at Abbey Road, right at that end.
Yeah, because I thought big ears. I thought that the story, I was fascinated by the story and the mythology around them. And I was, the conventional story that you would tell a kid was, oh, they started getting into drugs and stuff, and they grew beards and stuff, and they went weird. And I thought, ooh, I like the sound of that. So I looked for the latest possible album I could get, rather than starting at the clean mop tops.
Yeah. I don't want the saccharine pop from the beginning. I want it when they, started to fight, and have arguments with each other and maybe smoke drugs. I mean, that's great. I think that's true. Oh yeah, I love this from David. Like you say, my kids say things like, "Have you heard this new song?" I have a listen and say that the tune riff is from an older song that's been sampled, and then he gets to play it to them, and they go,
Yeah, you're just making up stuff, Dad. Dad, stop making up things. Yeah, I'm trying to remember sort of the first sort of singles I actually bought when I was an earnest teenager, but they were probably Yazoo, because I'm such a fan of Vincent and Alison. So probably Yazoo. I think they were the first ones. As I figured, no, there's a line you cross where just having a cassette of your mate's copy is not good enough. You want the actual disc. So
and that's the thing.
Probably only you. Yeah, it becomes I want to own this because this represents what I'm into, and you're projecting yourself onto it. That's probably the first one. If I'm being honest.
Did you do the whole? You can admit it now. No one's going to take you to court. Did you do the whole tape copying thing, like we all?
Oh God, yeah, bloody right, I did.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it was a rite of passage.
There was no other way I was going to hear the music. I mean, I wasn't going to be able to buy it. That wasn't going to happen.
I mean, if people in the music industry had looked at that back then, because you used to have all of those adverts and things saying, don't copy music. It's killing it's killing music. If they'd have looked at that back then and seen what's going on now, they would have gone, carry on copying.
Yeah.
Because we all went out and bought the albums.
Yeah, there were a couple of bands who got clever about it. One of them, I'm going to say it was probably one of McLaren's bands. And what they did was they put out the album on cassette, but the other side of the cassette was blank. And they basically said, just record your other album on that. And I remember telling a friend, what they should do is put out a compilation, sell blank cassettes for a few pence more, but on one side of it, have all these new bands that they're trying to get you to listen to. And, I was laughed at. It's like, that's stupid. Who'd want to do that? So maybe I should have got into the industry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that sounds a little bit like Spotify.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I need to get on to Daniel Ek and claim my patent.
That will never, ever work. No one will ever do that.
Never. No.
And then it all came true. Oh, I know. It was brilliant. I mean, the things that people have said over the years in terms of the music industry, like the fact that we're all going to go into record shops. This was in Q magazine at one point. We're all going to go into record shops with little discs, little chips, and put it over the counter and say, I'd like that song, and then they put it on the disc and you take it away. It's not too far similar to that, but that's because someone invented this interweb thing. We didn't actually need to go into the shop to do it. But
yeah, the root of all evil.
It's all coming back now, isn't it? Cassette tapes are coming back. Most bands are doing cassette tapes. Most bands are doing vinyl now.
Well,
and look at that.
Look at that. Yes, I think that's the first one out in the wild. Let me show you how pretty it looks. I've got the sleeve, the disc inside. So these have just arrived. Isn't that pretty? So that's the new album. Now, there's 5 different color variants, and this is just one of them. And I discovered that if I organized it, I could have the pressing plant do 5 different variants. So there's a sort of a blue and white mixture. There's a kind of a silvery gray. There's a gold. There's a sort of Soviet red, and there's a, what's the last one that I can't remember? There's 5 of them anyway.
I can actually see people salivating. They're all salivating now.
Oh, I know people who can smell fresh vinyl from a mile away, and they're making their way to my studio right now. It is available on more conventional, modern CD. It is available for all the cool kids who have CD players. We're doing a CD, and I think there's this thing called digital, but it'll never catch on.
Can you hold the CD up a minute? Because I just want to see. Yeah, no, the inside of the CD. The actual
the inside,
CD,
yes.
Yeah. And the actual CD itself. Well, you've missed the trick there, sir. You've missed the trick.
What's that?
Well, I don't know. Did you see? I quite liked the other day. I saw interview with Everything. Do you follow them?
Yeah.
At all?
Yeah.
Great band. Their latest album, they've actually had, that little compact disc mark that used to be on all albums.
Yes.
They've had that put back on the album.
Oh,
yes. No one ever has it anymore. But you don't need it, but they've had it put on the album.
I used to do that, and I've completely forgot about doing it. And actually, now that I think about it, I could have done it with. So there's a kind of it's a fake Cyrillic font that my artist made up for me. So it kind of gives you the impression that this is maybe some sort of Cyrillic language, but it's not really. And yeah, we could have done it with compact disc, like in those lettering. You know what? If I do a repress, that's what we're doing. We're going to do that. Yeah. It's so satisfying to have the physical product. Yeah. That's actually, you can pre-order that. It's coming out in July, but it's, these earbuds really are annoying me. It's going to come out in
Can someone invent some better earbuds? Anyone?
Yeah.
Earbuds?
Could we get old man earbuds?
Well, yeah. Maybe what you need is like just to use in ears, like you get on stage.
Well, that's what I should have done. I should have got on stage. I use in ears. I should have just taken them because they're perfect. They're really good.
Yeah. For anyone that doesn't understand what in ears are. Once upon a time, ladies and gentlemen, anyone that was in a band long time ago lost their hearing due to the fact that you would stand. So, what? Pardon? Due to the fact that you would stand in front of speakers every night and monitors.
Would you like a cup of tea?
Yeah. What? And then someone clever invented something called in-ears. So actually, the only thing that you actually hear, you protect your hearing, but the only thing you hear is the mix from everybody else.
I do all my live shows with them because it just makes it so much easier. Because then the onstage volume is is non-existent, so you don't get all this muck getting into the vocal mic. So the sound engineers love it because it makes their lives so much easier.
Someone actually once said to me at a gig when I went with them, they said, "Why is he listening to music when he's playing?"
Was it craft work? Was he doing his email at the same time?
Was he multitasking? Is this what the new world's come to? This is hybrid. Yeah, this is hybrid music.
You can't even take time off work to play a gig. I'm just keeping up with the project here. No, I've got it covered. Don't worry. Yeah.
Now talk to me about the rig that you've got behind you and Simpsons stuff.
Oh, like the studio. This is the. Let me just pan it a little bit.
Looks absolutely beautiful. I love the blue light.
It's all lit up. So what I have is, and actually there's the poly stand. So this is the studio. So on this side here is my polysynths. So there will be tech folk watching. So they're probably watching. Which one is that? So at the very top is a Roland Juno 106, Roland System 8, sequential OB6, and then a Prophet 10, which is a gorgeous instrument.
Prophet 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the very back is all the mono synths. So I have an old Pro 1 because Vince Clarke had one there. I have to have one. An Arp Odyssey, Roland SH-101, Moog Sub 37, and then the one on the far right, which my fan is just at, is an Arturia, which I've had signed by various people that I meet. So it's been signed by Gary Newman, all the OMD lads, Martin Ware, Howard Jones. Who else has signed it? Vince Clarke.
That is so cool. Well. That is so cool.
And I've told my kids, "This is a fire! Grab the synth."
Someone actually left a message on my YouTube yesterday. Do you know you sound just like Gary Newman? Really?
Actually, yes. That's a good yes.
Do I really? A little bit. Maybe
a little bit, yeah,
a little bit of gravel.
I mean, I've met him, and you do, yeah.
Well, I'll take that anyway.
You've more original hair than he has.
Well, I loved his latest album. Did you listen to his latest album? Fantastic.
Yeah, he was in Dublin 2 nights ago, and I had guest list, and I couldn't go.
Oh,
yeah, the
that
support,
is tragic.
The support artist, I Speak Machine, very kindly offered me guest list, and I couldn't go. I had a previous commitment for a thing I do, and I couldn't do it, and I was gutted because he was playing probably the best venue in Dublin, in one of the theaters, and I just thought, so I'm just gonna forget. And the same thing has happened now tonight. Midge is playing, and he's playing tonight in Dublin in a nice small venue that I've played, and so it's going to be really intimate. And unfortunately, I'm working late. And
is he doing that acoustic, or is he doing that?
It's electronic.
Is it electronic?
It's electronic. Yeah, so that's making it worse because I'd love to see it. Yeah. It's just sometimes you can't do all the shows. Yeah, it's just not possible.
He pivoted really well, as every musician had to, but he pivoted really well during lockdown because he started doing his backstage sessions or backstage club sessions or whatever.
I was doing those because it was the only way to get out there, and they were really very satisfying because I reached a whole new audience. Yeah, and it was great. It was a setup. I still have the cameras here. Actually, there's little cameras, GoPros on all of the keyboard stands, and a switcher. So
I was going to ask, did you set this setup was really because of what happened through the pandemic?
Yeah, I just set it up. The first one was a little bit sort of flying by the seat of my pants, and it managed to do it. And then it got a little more sophisticated, and now there's 3 or 4 cameras, and then my live show, if you go to a venue, has me performing, but I also project video that's synchronized with the music. It's all part of the whole, I guess, the Circuit3 live thing. So I started doing it online, and I was so pleased because it did 2 things. First of all, it got me a whole new bunch of listeners and fans. After each show, I saw my Bandcamp numbers going up, which was great. So it worked. But then the chat, so there'd be an online chat, and I would stream to multiple platforms, YouTube, Facebook, etc. And the online chat, people were able to reconnect because they couldn't do it in person. And it was brilliant fun. So that was just the whole package was just so satisfying. And I was asked, now that you've stopped doing it, and I said, what? I haven't stopped doing it. I'm just taking a break. So I'm going to do a big live stream. I believe we're scheduling it with the label. I think it's in August sometime, and I'm going to do the full album, sort of start to finish, and then have a bit of fun afterwards. Because I would do the serious stuff with my own material, and then I'd have a bit of fun by taking songs we know from the past and electrifying them a little bit and just having fun. I've no shame.
Right. What sort of songs?
Everything from Fleur. Do you remember Fleur?
Yeah.
Yes. I would do a couple of Heaven 17 songs simply because I love
why not? Yeah,
because you have to. It's the law.
It is.
You have to do Let Me Go. I would do. I try to do a little obscure stuff. Like if I was going to do a Depeche number, I did Ice Machine.
Right. Not an obvious.
Not an obvious one. I love doing that. And then, I think around about Pride, I sort of would pick out an Erasure number, and then around Christmas, so Christmas 2020, I had this I thought it was a clever idea, and I instantly regretted it because I said online, okay, I'm going to do some Christmas hits. And then I looked to see, well, what was number one every year? And I thought, I can't do them. I'm not doing that. I can't do them. So I settled on Pink Floyd's Another Brick in the Wall, because technically it was number one at Christmas. And I ended up putting it into the set because you can do a big solo on it. You can pretend to be Dave Gilmour with a synth. So I did all that sort of stuff, and I mixed in bits of video, and it was just great fun. And I think last Christmas, what did I do? I did a Cliff Richard song.
Did you?
Look, my original songs are serious enough, but if you go back and if you look at some of Cliff Richard's stuff with Tarney as producer and so on, and you begin to see, ooh, he almost made a synth pop album. So I did Wired for Sound.
Wired for Sound. What a great song.
Yeah, it's a brilliant pop song. And and then you go back and you look at the album and you look at the team you had around him and you think, Cliff, you idiot, you should have just stuck with that team. You gave up too soon.
Yeah.
And then you did all this other muck. That's not interesting at all. This was really cool.
It went away from that too quickly. That whole album is great.
Yeah. It's brilliant production, brilliant pop songs. And when you listen to it, you realize, oh wow, it's kind of like McCartney too.
Yeah.
I maintain McCartney had been listening to Yellow Magic Orchestra, because if you see the photographs of what he was using at the time, it was like the likes of the Jupiter 4 here, and all the late 70s stuff that was available. I think he had a CS80 and stuff. And if you listen to that album and think, okay, imagine you're Paul McCartney and you've just discovered Yellow Magic Orchestra. What sort of album are you going to make?
Yeah. We've talked about on the show, actually, because we've had a few people release Christmas singles. We've talked about Paul McCartney's Simply Having a Wonderful Christmas Time in the past, because that whole song is basically, I've got a new synth.
It's a CS80 and a Prophet 5. Yeah.
In it. It basically is, oh, listen, that's a nice noise.
Yeah.
I can just, and now what if I just put a bit of that on it? Yeah, there it is. That's the whole
I've
song.
got a track. Yeah. It's such an obvious one. It's a synth pop Christmas hit. I mean, we're all sick to death hearing it because it's been played to death. But if you could be objective about it and look at it, you think, oh yeah, it's quite cool. It's synths, you know.
What do you think killed synth pop for a period? Because obviously it was massive, and then it sort of died off. Personally, I blame demo buttons on on all electric keyboards which were bought.
My take on that is that I would refute the notion that it died. Okay. I would say that
all right.
the media developed
diminished.
a different obsession.
Yeah.
So it was always going on. It's like right now, there are grunge bands out there. There are kids in grunge bands making that noise. Somebody somewhere thinks that they have invented, My Bloody Valentine. Somebody somewhere has done it. Somebody somewhere is doing folk music.
Yeah, to be fair, folk music's never really died, has it? Because it's just, or never really diminished. It's just
like a rash.
Constant. Yeah.
It's like a rash. I've some cheek. I learned folk music.
It's a nice rash, but it's a rash.
It's a rash that itches sometimes. Yeah. But it's so I would say it's always there. Clark Stifle produces a song called "Synth Pop's Not Dead," and it's very, very, very witty in the style of Spray. Yeah, it's called Synth Pop's Not Dead, and if you look for that, you'll find it online. It's very, very clever. And Clark has a range of vintage synthesizers.
Yeah.
So he would speak to it. I think part of the problem there's bands out there who latched onto the whole electronic music thing over the last 5 years or so, and they somewhat irritate me because they're no more electronic than the Wurzels. They go on stage with a backing tape, a guitar, a percussion pad, and a singer, and you'd look at it and you think, where did this become electronic? Because I've never seen them with a synthesizer. They're making pop music, which is perfectly fine, but stop chasing something because that's what's current. I've only ever known how to make music with this stuff. I tried with guitars and I was rubbish. So this is all I know, and this is probably already out of fashion. I don't even know what the media is looking at these days. The Weekend, I suppose, gives you an indication, but that's probably so 2021. I just don't know what's popular.
I think there's a definition, isn't there? To be really in the synth pop game, you've got to be a geek as well.
Oh gosh, yeah.
You completely got to be a geek.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it was the fact that when we were doing it at school, etc., it was, if we'd all turn up with long black coats that we'd brought, for example, everybody else was wearing bomber jackets or whatever, and we'd all go long black coats,
like we've just walked off the set of Vienna.
Yeah, exactly. Or we're all, we'd ring each other and go, we're all going to wear black today. Yeah, we're all going to wear black. We're just going to all do this. Then it'd be as much about the electronics and the sort of the gadgetry and the sort of sound processing and all of that. I mean, I used to buy magazines where someone would talk about, oh, we've dropped a watermelon off the top of a huge building, and then we've put a microphone there, and we've recorded it, and then we sampled that through this. And it's that perfect sound as that watermelon smashes, and you just think that's it. You get really excited by all of that. If you're not really into that, then you're not really into it, I think.
I think it does help. I participated in a documentary several years ago about Blancmange. They played their first and only show in Ireland, and so I was interviewed for it. I never got to see the show because I was on a delayed flight, but that's another complaint I have. But I was interviewed the day after and about it, and got to meet Neil and everything. He was a charming man. And when I saw the final cut of it, I think it's actually up there somewhere. The documentary is called "You Keep Me Running Round and Round," and I think it's actually up on Vimeo for free. And it's really interesting because one of the participants, with a knowing look to camera, said, yes, well, to make this music, you do have to be a little bit intelligent. It requires the ability to understand systems and systems within systems, and it puts a lie to, and I know what he meant. He didn't mean academic intelligence. He meant intelligent enough to figure out something and learn from it, and to look at something as a system, and to have sort of computational thinking. If the synth is not doing what you expected it to do, there's only so many things that are here in front of you, so you troubleshoot and you fix it. So if you look at the likes of Midjour, didn't go to university. I'm not sure he even finished school. Yet he was programming a PPG wave. And look at any of those artists. I think Thomas Dolby was educated, but not in this area. His education came from another angle, but he figured out how to take a lighting controller and turn it into effectively a drum machine controller.
Yeah,
he was doing all of that sort of stuff, and you just think, no, you have an inbuilt curiosity and a determination to make a bit of equipment do what you want it to do, or to be happy with accidents.
Yeah, Thomas Dolby, there's a name. What a fantastic guy.
Charming man.
Well, and the beauty is, so many people go, never heard of him. Oh. And then you go Prefab Sprout, and they went,
Foreigner.
Yeah.
You start listing them off. Have you seen him? Did you see him on his book tour when he was he had done a sort of a speaking type thing for his book tour? Did you see any of that? I flew over to go to Birmingham. Yeah, and the stories he tells are just brilliant. He's very eloquent, and I love that he flies by the seat of his pants with technology. He'll have a laptop, a little controller, and he uses digital audio workstations in a way they weren't meant to be used. And
I would have one argument with him, though. I would have one argument with him, which is I would actually take the keys to his Ferrari.
Would you?
That is a reference, guys. If anyone wants to check out the Thomas Dolby albums, he doesn't want the keys to the Ferrari. Thomas Dolby, you mentioned Blancmange. What was your favourite Blancmange song? Because for me, it's "What's Your Problem." I love that song. Absolutely love "What's Your Problem." Have we lost you? Oh, we've run out. Oh, the batteries have run out. The batteries have run out. We're coming back. We're coming back. Don't worry. Now, this is the problem with electronic things, folks. You only got to run out of batteries and the whole thing stops just for a second. Hopefully, we're going to pick back up again. I can't hear you. Can't hear you. Oh no. I'm gonna see whether I can.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, I've had to put it onto the internal. This is what I get for buying cheap knockoffs.
I'm just saying, this is the problem with electronics. I was just asking you just before that. Never mind. I was just asking you just before that. Yeah, say Blancmange. My favourite song is "What's Your Problem." What's yours?
Yeah. It has got to be. Oh, That's Love That It Is. Or no, probably something off one of the more recent albums, actually.
Really?
Yeah. Neil Arthur, I admire what he's done. He has resurrected his music career, and he does all the festivals. He plays all the hits that people want to hear. But if you have not experienced Blancmange live doing their thing, it's so good. It's heavier, it's more raw. We're into John Fox territory, because he's working with Benj and people like that. So of course it's going to be hardcore. If people haven't seen Blancmange live doing new material, you're absolutely missing out on the trick. Even if you didn't like the pop stuff, it's nothing like that. It couldn't be further away from it. He's actually developed as an artist. I really admire him, and he's a really lovely guy. I saw them in the garage in London a couple of years ago, and I thought, oh, I'll go up and say hello and maybe get him to sign something. And I'm sort of waiting there. 2 or 3 people are in front of me, and I get to the top of the line. He says, "Oh, hello, Peter." And I'm like, how do you know my name? And then he said, "You're in the bloody documentary, mate." I said, "Oh, right. Yes." So he has got an amazing memory. Like,
wow.
Fair play to him. I can barely remember my own name, much less somebody else. And he's great fun. He's great fun.
Oh no, that's lovely to hear. So, in terms of, let's talk very very quickly now about the new album.
Yes.
What can the people expect to hear? I mean, I've listened to it. It's
oh, you have. Good. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. It's very varied.
Yes. It's ambitious.
Which is important. It is ambitious.
Yeah, it is. So, for people who are wondering, what does Technology for the Youth sound like? It's a collection of songs that tell some of the untold stories of the space race, sequenced together with small, short, instrumental pieces that sound like they could have been taken from each of them could have been taken from their own science fiction film. That's about the only way I can describe it. And the mixes and the arrangements are meant to be sparse enough that you can almost imagine a night sky, and if sound was something you could see, you would see the stars coming through the sounds, and you'd see the occasional spacecraft. I'm trying to get across sort of the feeling of being in space and some of the disconnection that you'd have, but the stories. Everything has to start with a song, which has to tell a story. It has to be about something, and it covers everything from an observation on a lean to the right in politics, and how at the time we most needed it, we had leaders who were denying science. Yet the planet is on fire, but scientists clearly don't know what they're doing. It opens on a cheerful song like that. And then we progressed through.
Love
We progressed through stories about the first woman in space. We all know about the first man in space. We all know about the first man on the moon. There's an absolutely heartbreaking story about Ed Dwight, who was meant to be the first Black African American in space, and he got shafted by NASA and the government. There's a song called Spacewalking about him. And then when you start reading this stuff, you start finding all these conspiracy theories. So there's this great conspiracy theory that the Soviets sent cosmonauts to space, knowing they couldn't get them back. So there are people who still believe there's satellites orbiting the Earth with these dead cosmonauts in it. It's an absolute nonsense. But there's a brilliant story.
Is that who was in Bowie's last video?
Yes, maybe.
Right.
You see?
Hey.
So I wrote a whole song about that, and I discovered there was a short film made about it, and it's just, I cover in the live shows as I'm playing the songs. I'm projecting images related to the songs and also telling a little bit about the story. And what I'm hoping people do when they hear the album, first of all, they love it because it is pure electronic, and I have tried to keep it varied so that it's a good listening experience. But
it
also
definitely is. Yep.
I want people to go and read up these stories, find out about hidden history, because it's fascinating. It really is. So that's technology for the youth. That's what it's all about.
It's a great day's worth of work.
It is.
You know, it's worth listening to. It's, you know, why would you not now, having had that little taster, want to go out and investigate that a little bit more? This is entirely what this program's about.
Yep. Well, you know, my label would really like it if people did that.
Yes, please do that.
I tell you what, it's selling the pre-orders, because we've got pre-orders out now on circuit3.bandcamp.com, and there's all the different vinyl variants. I think the test pressings have sold out because there's collectors go for all that stuff.
Wow.
There's a couple of bundles where we do a good deal. If you're a vinyl completist and you want to get all the colors, we do bundles and stuff. But you can get the CD, and if you want to just do digital, we've got digital. You know, we've got the lot. You can get on the pre-orders, and by doing that, you see, you'll also hear about the other stuff. You'll hear about the live stream shows. You'll hear about the in-person shows. I'll be coming to the UK in the autumn and winter to do stuff because I've signed to Analog Trash, and they are great at putting on shows. So all of that's happening. Yeah. So
I better get my vinyl order in quickly then, because I keep my nice little. I keep my little, you know, turntable right here on my desk. You know.
Yes.
I mean, perfect office setup. Anybody, if you're setting up your office, don't forget one of the most important things on your desk should be your record player. That's incredibly important.
And any other way is just
you know, people go for it. I need a printer. No, not really. You can do without one of those. You know, I need a mouse mat. No,
no.
Vinyl. Yes,
because we're not savages, right?
We're not.
And look, honorable mention though, if somebody wants to go for the CD, you know, you can do that. You can do that. You can do the CD. We'll forgive you. There's actually the CD. I was surprised at how many people go for CD.
Well, CDs are making a comeback as well.
Yeah, that was
interestingly.
That's a surprise. Yeah, and I can understand why. Because you can't have a turntable in every room in the house. But you can
I just think physical format full stop is making a big comeback. You know, what's interesting about that is that it's almost kind of linked to the news, which I was reading quite a bit about yesterday, because I do social media. That's what I do. Across all of the social media, about quite a number of cloud companies who are going bust.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's actually starting to affect people in terms of like accounting software and things like that. You know, and you know, some of these reports were going, do you remember a time when you actually natively loaded stuff onto your computer? So, I mean, if that company disappeared, you still had it. You still had all your data.
And it happens. It happens. There was a cloud storage company in France, publicly owned, that just basically shut up shop. And I had 3 gigabytes of stuff. Now, luckily, it was a backup of a backup, but streaming services can and will disappear.
Yeah.
Terms and conditions on your account can and will change. you will have disputes with those services, and you don't own any of the music. You don't own it. You've got a license to access it, and they can revoke that license, or the content can be pulled. So I had some objections with a particular streaming service and their practices. So I pulled my albums from it. My singles are there, but my albums are gone because I just had issues, and it was unfortunate, but that can happen. And I'm not the only artist to have done that.
No.
Now, the streaming service, it was in the news, Circuit3 pulls his albums and their stock price went down. So I'm not claiming that I was at the forefront of that, but I am.
It's got to be done. Now, listen, are you into TikTok at all? I've got to ask that question as well, because
I've tried. I can't. I've just.
Well, the reason I ask is because a friend of mine who owns a music distribution company has just signed a deal with TikTok's new. I can't remember the name of it, but they've got a new side to them. So if they're doing almost like a record label on TikTok. Have you seen that?
Yes, my music is available to be used on TikTok, but personally, I don't view it. I
don't view.
I don't like. There's a lot of I'm trying to be polite here. A lot
half
of
naked people.
That's the bit. Yeah, that's the bit, because he's like, no, honestly, I was trying to find something else there. No, really, and a lot of weirdos. So no, I avoid it for that reason, because I just look a little bit odd as a 50-something-year-old man, like scrolling past all of these young people. No. Honestly, I'm trying to find Thomas Dolby. Will you leave me alone? But my music is available there, so if somebody wants to do a sea shanty dance to the tune of one of my space tunes, they are welcome to go do that, and bonus points if they dress like an astronaut.
Let's hope that happens then, because I think it's good. I think it's good that that sort of licensing is available now, and people can get into all of that. So brilliant. Now listen, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise.
Meeting you.
It's great fun.
And talking to you about a little bit about your history in music. I mean, we could go on, but the time is coming to an end. Before you go, the one question that I tend to ask everybody towards the end is, if you could collaborate with anybody, alive or dead, who would it be and why?
Vince Clarke. It's a no-brainer. I'm a fanboy, and that's why it'll never happen, because I'm a fanboy.
You're too close to it.
Yeah, but I could do it. I mean, I can separate him as a songwriter and as a musician from all of that other stuff. And the reason I'd love to collaborate with him is that with Vince, it always starts with a song. His favorite songwriter is Paul Simon.
Yeah.
He was a big fan of ABBA, and then you begin to see, perfect pop production. Where else have we heard that? Yazoo, Erasure, The Assembly. Yeah, of course. Also, he doesn't get too precious about the instruments he uses. Like, it serves a purpose, and I love all of that. And I've met him once, and he's just good fun.
Yeah, strikes me as probably a very intelligent guy as well.
Yeah, he is very intelligent, and like he has this thing where if you do a selfie with him, he'll put a really straight, grim face on. And I've noticed with Erasure fans, there's a competition to see who can get a picture of Vince when he's smiling, and he does it deliberately. He's just got this great sense of humor. So it would be Vince for that reason, and also I could probably learn a lot from him.
I was going to say, is it a learning thing as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of the stuff I've tried to figure out with these, like with the Pro One, like how did he do some of those sounds and so on, especially after the Upstairs at Eric's album. How did he do it? Because I have a Lindrum and I have the Pro One and I have a knockoff of the 808, which is basically what he had. And he had a Jupiter 4. So it's just figuring out, what other tricks did you learn? There's stuff you're not supposed to be able to do with some of the instruments, like the Jupiter 4. There's things that you're not supposed to be able to do. And he said, well, no, if you actually press these buttons and just hold them in and persuade them to stay in, you can do this. And you think, oh, right, yeah, you were never meant to do that, but it sounds great. So stuff like that.
And so much about the kind of music that you make, or electronic music, is about those mistakes, isn't it? Or is about those
curiosity.
Yeah, those little things that you find.
What'll happen if I do this?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure he discovered by accident. There's a thing he does, and people who don't know synthesizers are probably just going to think, what is he barking on about now? But there's a thing you do when you sequence the notes and they play in a certain pattern, but you can then do a thing called modulating the filter, which changes the tone on every note. Now, he may have nicked the idea off somebody else, but I don't think so. I suspect he discovered that by accident and it became his signature sound. Yeah. And it's when I got the Pro One, it was the first thing I tried to do. Okay, I think this is how he does it, and it's great. It's making the most of very limited equipment.
Yeah, yeah. No,
like how do you make a synth sound like 2 or 3? So there's that. I would love to work with Vince, and if Vince isn't available, Thomas Dolby.
Absolutely, I think anyone listening that's never really explored electronic music as well. And maybe thinks, oh, I can't really get on with guitars or traditional instruments. Give it a go. For me, it all started when now here's the story. It all started for me when my music teacher pulled me out of maths. Because
what were you doing?
Well, because my music teacher at school at the time, this was middle school, so I was around about 11. They were putting on Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat, and they just bought a Yamaha CX5M. I don't know whether you remember that. It was So it had like the full size keyboard, and it had it had a separate computer element with a cart in the top of it. Yeah, and they bought it, and no one could figure out what the hell to do. and he
so did a lot of bands.
Yeah, exactly. So he pulled me out of maths. He said, excuse me, can I, and he said, you can program computers, can't you? I went, well, yeah, because I was a bit of a nerd into computers, etc. He said, well, we've got this. We don't understand it. And I just got to play. And it was brilliant, and it was so mind-opening for me because up until that point, I'd always enjoyed singing, and I'd always been a little bit of a singer. But instrument-wise, I thought, I sucked at recorder and stuff like that at school. I always, mimed, etc. I thought I'm never going to get instruments, never, ever, ever going to get instruments. And suddenly, it was like, do you know what? I can actually make music. Yeah. So I would encourage, because some people have got music in them, but traditional instruments per se are not necessarily the opening door for them. So I would encourage anyone that's like that to just give it a go. Go and get yourself. Go and get yourself a little keyboard starter.
Even start with soft synths. Like a software synthesizer, it's got the interface. It's not as satisfying because you can't grab it. Part of the fun is the physical control, but yeah, you can do all of that. That definitely. And look at how. If you look at some artists who have managed to go from knowing traditional instruments and then what they do, that's another gift. So I wasn't really very good on guitar, and I learned folk instruments and stuff, which you will do in Ireland. And I realized very quickly I will never be exceptional on this instrument, and that's what attracted me to electronic music. But then if you take an artist who took, I'm not comparing myself, but they had a similar path, Hannah Peel. I don't know if you know Hannah Peel, but Hannah Peel has come from a more traditional music background, and then you look at what she's doing, like scoring strings for Paul Weller, but then go listen to her electronic stuff. It's mind-blowing. But what I love about what she's doing, she's taking the two together. She's using a brass band and a load of synths. That's just, and then doing it at festivals. It's just pure genius. I think that there's somebody who you just wonder, why is this person not on the front page of the newspapers for being so innovative and clever and groundbreaking? She's just so good. So if you are a traditional musician, look at what Hannah Peel has done. Just because you know the stuff doesn't mean that you won't be able to develop something new and then somehow combine the two, and the next thing you know, you're innovating.
Absolutely. My friend, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I hope we've encouraged people to really get into electronic music.
I hope so.
I hope people are encouraged to go and find out a little bit more about your music and buy some albums. Where's the best place to do that?
Circuit3.bandcamp.com. You'll find the back catalogue, you'll find the new stuff. It's all there.
Go and do it now. My friend, take care. Have a good rest
Thank
of the day.
you, Greg. Yeah, I
We'll see
will.
you soon.
Lovely to chat with you, man. Bye now.
Lovely. Bye now.